In a cozy diner nestled on the outskirts of a small American town, the morning light filtered through the large windows, casting a warm glow over the checkered floor. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of sizzling bacon and toasted bread, creating an inviting atmosphere. It was a typical Wednesday, October 22, 2025, just past 11:06 a.m. PKT, though the local time in this corner of the USA was a few hours behind. The place buzzed with the soft hum of conversation, the clink of cutlery, and the occasional laughter of regulars who had been coming here for decades. At one of the booths near the window, an elderly woman sat with a posture that spoke of both grace and frailty. Her name was Margaret, a sprightly 82-year-old who had lived in this town her entire life. She wore a black hat adorned with a subtle feather, a relic from a more elegant era, paired with a dark coat that draped over her shoulders. Her hands, adorned with a simple gold wedding band, rested on the table as she sipped her tea, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. Across from her, an older gentleman named Harold, a retired mechanic, nursed his coffee, his weathered face creased with a smile as he recounted a story from his youth. The waitress, a young woman named Emily, moved with practiced ease through the diner. Her teal uniform, complete with a white apron and a name tag pinned neatly over her heart, was a nod to the classic American diner aesthetic. Her dark hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and she carried a tray with the confidence of someone who had served these tables for years. Today, she approached Margaret's booth with a plate in hand, the red arrow in the image pointing to a moment of connection between them. "Here you go, Margaret," Emily said with a warm smile, setting a plate of golden toast topped with a generous pat of butter in front of the elderly woman. The toast was circled in red, a visual cue that highlighted the simple pleasure it represented. "Fresh out of the toaster, just the way you like it." Margaret's face lit up, her mouth opening in a delighted, "Oh," as she clasped her hands together. "Oh, Emily, you're an angel," she exclaimed, her voice carrying the slight tremor of age but brimming with gratitude. She reached for the toast, her fingers brushing the warm bread as if it were a treasure. The butter glistened under the diner's soft lights, melting slowly into the crust, a small indulgence that meant more to her than words could express. Emily chuckled, adjusting the salt and pepper shakers on the table. "It's just toast, Margaret, but I'm glad you like it. Anything else I can get you?" She glanced at Harold, who waved a hand dismissively, indicating he was content with his coffee for now. "No, dear, this is perfect," Margaret replied, her eyes following Emily as the waitress moved to check on another table. The diner was a second home to Margaret, a place where the routines of ordering tea and toast anchored her days. She had been coming here since the 1960s, back when the diner was a hub for truckers and locals alike, and the waitresses wore similar uniforms but with even more flair. Over the years, she'd watched the town change, new families moving in, old stores closing, and the diner itself passing through different owners, but the warmth of the place remained a constant. As Margaret took a bite of the toast, the crunch echoed softly in her ears, a sound that brought back memories of her late husband, Tom. He had loved this diner too, often teasing her about her unwavering loyalty to their favorite booth by the window. "You'd sit here even if the roof caved in," he'd say with a laugh, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners. That was decades ago, before he passed, leaving her with a quiet house and a habit of seeking solace in the diner's familiar embrace. The toast, with its simple perfection, was a link to those days, a taste of continuity in a world that seemed to move too fast. Outside, the street was quiet, the autumn leaves skittering across the pavement as a cool breeze rustled the blinds. The town, a blend of old brick buildings and modern storefronts, was the kind of place where everyone knew each other's names. The diner's windows offered a panoramic view of this slice of Americana, where pickup trucks shared the road with electric cars, a sign of the times blending with tradition. Inside, the other patrons, a mix of retirees, a young mother with a toddler, and a couple of construction workers on break, added to the tapestry of everyday life. Emily returned to the counter, where she poured herself a quick cup of coffee. At 24, she was the youngest of the diner's staff, having started working there 2 years ago to save for college. She loved the job, the way it connected her to the community, but she often dreamed of studying literature, of losing herself in books rather than coffee orders. Today, though, her focus was on her customers, especially Margaret, who had become something of a surrogate grandmother to her. The elderly woman's stories of the town's past fascinated Emily, filling her with a sense of history she couldn't find in textbooks. Back at the booth, Margaret set her toast down, her gaze drifting to the window. The red circle around the plate seemed to symbolize more than just the food, it was a marker of the moment, a pause in the rush of life. She thought about her children, now scattered across the country, and her grandchildren, who visited less often than she'd like. The diner was her anchor, a place where she could feel relevant, where her presence was noticed. Emily's kindness, the way she remembered her order without asking, made Margaret feel seen in a way that the modern world often overlooked. Harold cleared his throat, pulling Margaret back to the present. "You're miles away again," he said, his voice gruff but gentle. He'd known her since they were kids, their families living just a block apart. "What's on your mind?" Margaret smiled, patting his hand. "Just thinking about Tom and how he'd have polished off that toast in 2 bites. And how this place hasn't changed a bit." Her eyes softened as she looked around, taking in the vintage jukebox in the corner, the faded photographs of the town's history on the walls, and the worn vinyl seats. "It's a good place," Harold agreed, glancing at the construction workers who were now laughing over a shared joke. "Keeps us old-timers young, I suppose. Though I reckon Emily's the real secret, she's got away with folks." Margaret nodded, watching as Emily delivered a plate of pancakes to the mother and toddler, her movements graceful despite the bustle. The diner's rhythm was like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. She took another bite of her toast, savoring the buttery richness, and felt a wave of contentment. It wasn't just the food, it was the people, the stories, the shared history that made this moment special. As the morning wore on, the diner filled with more patrons, the hum of conversation growing louder. A group of teenagers spilled in, their laughter cutting through the air as they claimed a table near the door. Emily moved among them with the same care she showed Margaret, taking their orders with a smile. The contrast between the young and the old in the room was striking, yet it worked, a living testament to the diner's role as a community hub. Margaret finished her toast, wiping her fingers on the napkin with a contented sigh. She leaned back, her hat casting a shadow over her face as she watched the world go by. The red arrow above Emily seemed to point not just to the waitress but to the act of giving, of connecting, that defined this place. In a world of fast food and fleeting interactions, the diner stood as a relic of slower, kinder times, a place where a piece of toast could hold the weight of memory and the promise of friendship. Harold finished his coffee, setting the mug down with a clink. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked, his eyes twinkling with their usual mischief. "Wouldn't miss it," Margaret replied, her smile mirroring his. As Emily cleared the table, she caught Margaret's eye and winked, a silent acknowledgement of their bond. The day stretched ahead, filled with the ordinary magic of a small-town diner, where every plate served was a story, and every smile a thread in the fabric of life.